Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Saturday, March 30th, presented by Boston Hemp Inc. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, ready to break down a huge Saturday in the NHL. Tons of games to get to. Looking forward to it. We're going to actually skip the recap. There's only one game. I'll just be very brief with it. Buffalo won. New Jersey did New Jersey things. Inconsistent. Can't trust them. A couple of good wins, and then they lose to Buffalo. Buffalo comes back from a big deficit. Shout out to Tage Thompson for a natural hat trick and a 4-goal night as well. Buffalo 5-2 over New Jersey. But I cashed the best bet on the over in last-second fashion. Mini miracle with that. The end. That's all there is to say about that. Alex, did you have anything there to say?
Yeah, hit the first period over. That's it.
There you go. All right, there you go. Not much to say there. It's a perfect example of why New Jersey's not making the playoffs. You got to win that game. Yeah. Sure enough, they didn't. And that's what New Jersey is. They can beat a Toronto. They can they can beat some good teams every now and then, but then they lose to Buffalo last night. Let's get into it. It's a huge Saturday. We'll jump right in and we will begin. This game's going to start in about 20 minutes from now. The Detroit Red Wings taking on the Florida Panthers. Really good game to get the day started. A meaningful game for both teams. These are the games you like late in the season. Game that matters to both teams. Detroit's just trying to make the playoffs. Florida's trying to win. Trying to get the division from Boston. So it's a very, very important game as far as, the points that are on the table here with the Red Wings and the Panthers. Looks like right now we've got Florida just a little north of minus 200 here as home favorites in this game. The total 6 shaded to the over in this matchup, looking like around minus 220, the consensus number right now for the Florida Panthers here in this game. This is an interesting one because these two teams are very confounding right now. The Detroit Red Wings need all the points they can get, and when I saw that that performance against Carolina, a Hurricanes team that's gone through a very rigorous, demanding schedule, and you really didn't do better than that, getting shut out. And I know Freddie Anderson too has played well, but it was just very disappointing, I thought, for the Detroit Red Wings the other night against Carolina. In a game of that magnitude, and every game for them they have to treat like a Game 7 because they need it as they try to obtain one of the final playoff spots in the Eastern Conference. But I didn't see a great deal of urgency. I didn't see a great deal of desperation from them. They got dominated for the majority of that game. So it makes me very, very skeptical about whether they can hang with another top-tier team in the Eastern Conference here in the Florida Panthers. Problem is Florida's not playing like a top-tier team the last few games. They've had some stumbles. They look like they finally hit a bit of a physical wall. And you just wondered, about a month ago, is this team finally going to hit a rough patch? Are they finally going to hit a little bit of a bump in the road? Well, they've hit that bump in the road. There's no question. They've struggled. They blew a 3-2 lead late to Boston early in the week. It was supposed to be a bounce back spot against a very erratic New York Islanders team. They lose at home. And Paul Maurice is getting more and more agitated and frustrated with each loss. And we saw it once again following the Islander loss. So again, this sets up to be, you would think Florida responds with a better performance, but sometimes when it's this time of year, Alex, so many different teams and so many different spots where, again, you put the car in the ignition, you turn it, and the motor won't start up. And that's sometimes what you're seeing with a lot of these teams late in the season, dragging ass. It's been a long season. Injuries are mounting with some teams, and you want it, but wanting it doesn't mean you're going to produce the result, the desired result on the ice. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now with the Florida Panthers, who, by the way, have played a shit ton of hockey, intense hockey, meaningful hockey, high level of stress hockey. And what I mean by high level of stress is all the stress they went through just to get into the playoffs last year, all the stress and all the physicality they went through to go to the Stanley Cup final before losing to Vegas. And now this year trying to run it back. And you wonder now, physically and mentally, are they just a little bit spent right now? Because that's what it looks like to me watching the Florida Panthers the last few games. So the only bet I have on this game is the draw. I do think the draw's got a real shot here in this game. If you remember earlier this season, these teams, they only played once in Florida earlier this season. Alex Lyon was in net, Bobrovsky for Florida, the same goalie matchup we have here. And Detroit actually went to Florida and beat them 3-2 in a shootout in that game, and it went past regulation. I think that's the best way to play it right now. I don't fully trust Florida at minus 220 right now, given their, lethargic play the last week or so. And on the flip side, I just don't trust Detroit to beat a team of this caliber at the moment with what we've seen from them. But I do think it's a competitive game. Again, we have seen these two teams go past regulation last time they were here in Sunrise down in Florida. And Lyon is going to bring a pretty solid effort against his former team, the Florida Panthers here. It's as much as I've criticized Derek Lalonde for overusing Alex Lyon, this is an obvious spot to start him against his old team, where he did beat Florida, of course, in Florida earlier this season. He was in net for that 3-2 Red Wings win in a shootout earlier this season. So, yeah, Lyon over saves is actually not a bad option here, because Florida, the one thing they do is they shoot the puck a lot. This could be a decent. Haven't done a lot of goalie props lately, but Lyon over saves definitely makes some sense to me. But for me, just the draw. I do have a couple of props. I'll mention those in a moment. But side or total, the only thing I have here is the draw, and at a really nice price, by the way, plus 390 at FanDuel for the Red Wings and Panthers draw in this game. What do you think here in this one, Alex, to get the Saturday start at Detroit, Florida?
Yeah, I bet the under yesterday. I got under 6 at even money. You can get now if you shop around. There's still some 6s. There are some 6.5s, but mostly 6s and mostly at plus money. So you should be able to find something of decent value. So anything laying $1.10 or better, that's where we're going with the under. But I will grab a little bit of that draw. I just found a plus 380 at Bet Online, and it makes sense. But these two teams, it's been a one-sided series. 21 of the last 24 meetings won by Florida. You did mention that last time that Detroit did get a victory against Florida. Lyon with the net game did go past regulation. And we've been seeing Florida playing mostly unders against other Atlantic Division opponents. So it's definitely, 6, not really the under price we always want. We try to get for a 6.5, but I'm fine here with the 6 and laying a less juice here. Going with Florida and Detroit, I think it's going to be kind of a low and slow battle. Like I said, Detroit needing all the points they can. Florida just needing to, trying to find their rhythm with these last 9 games left. And like I said, maybe they are gassed out. That's something to keep an eye on, especially if you're looking to back Florida in any kind of way, futures-wise, first-round series, winning the East or winning the Cup. Yeah, keep an eye on how Florida's playing these last 9 games, and maybe we see them rest some guys in games 80, 81, 82 now that they clinch the playoff spot. And, of course, this is the week where we start looking at that too. Teams that finally have solidified their playoff spots or solidified where they are in the standings. They know they can't go up any further. They can't make any more movement. And there's only, I think, a few teams that would even qualify for that. Of course, you have like the Central where that wouldn't be an issue. But in the East, there's definitely teams that have clinched playoff spots already or will be clinching playoff spots this week where we might even look to fade them because they could just be trying to rest guys and get ready for the real deal in a few weeks.
And by the way, patreon.com/Ice Guys, the afternoon card is posted there, just so you know. And we'll add the night card, the evening plays later on during the day to the Patreon page. As far as props go, I'm going to go with the two guys that are flanking the top line with Barkov again, Rodriguez and Tarasenko. They've taken turns scoring the last 2 or 3 games for Florida. Tarasenko's actually got 2 goals in the last 3 games for Florida. I think he's probably worth a shot here as far as props go. Plus 325 for Tarasenko, plus 450 for Evan Rodriguez. I think those are some really good, props there as far as value because they're both playing with Barkov on the top line this afternoon for the Florida Panthers. Really only one guy I trust for Detroit, and that's the captain, Dylan Larkin, especially with Patrick Kane out. Kane is
that's what I'm saying. He's on the ice. No, he was on the ice skating. So this is an update in the last 6 minutes. Everybody's kind of going back and forth in the chat. So I was looking through. He is back in the lineup, and he was taking warm-ups. So he will be back in. Sir Patrick Kane back in for it.
All right, there we go. That is an update because it was looking about an hour or 2 ago like he was doubtful to play this afternoon here in this game. So that's big for Detroit. Now, he's kind of cooled off the last little bit, but still, nevertheless, you'd still rather have him in the lineup. There's no question. But Dylan Larkin is the one I would go to for Detroit because, if they're going to get something going today, the captain's going to have to lead by example against a team of this caliber, the Florida Panthers. And, if you want to be a little more conservative with Tarasenko, minus 105, to get a point, you could go in that route, as Brian says is in the chat. But I'm going to go for the value, plus 325 for Tarasenko to find the back of the net. All right, the second game is there's 3 afternoon games, by the way, on this Saturday card. This is the second afternoon game. Vegas and Minnesota. We've got this is actually ESPN Plus exclusive. So don't be going to your Vegas local broadcast or your Minnesota local broadcast for this game. It's on ESPN Plus this afternoon. We've got Vegas minus 120 road favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. Vegas Golden Knights, it's been a solid week for them. Really, they should be 3-0 this week. They beat St. Louis in overtime on Monday. On the back-to-back against Nashville, they should have won that game. They were up 4-0, but you give credit to Nashville with that incredible comeback when we were on the BetCast earlier this week, down 4-0, coming back to beat Vegas in overtime 5-4. But Vegas responds with a solid road effort against Winnipeg the other night, 4-1 win for the Golden Knights. It looks like we're going to see Logan Thompson versus Marc-Andre Fleury projections in net here. And I can't say enough good things right now about Logan Thompson. He has been very good for the Golden Knights. This is the best stretch of hockey he's played probably since all these injuries he's had. No question about it. He's looking like the goalie that, before he suffered all these injuries a season or two ago, he was looking like he could be the future in net for the Golden Knights. Then the injuries happened, and then he can't even play in the playoffs last year. And the next thing you know, Adin Hill's just getting on the run of a lifetime and leading them to the Stanley Cup. He kind of became the forgotten man a little bit in between the pipes. But he is reminding everybody what he is capable of right now. He's been very good for Vegas. I like Vegas here, short road favorite price, minus 120. I just think they're better than Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota's making the playoffs. They're going to try to convince themselves they're still in it. I don't believe that for a second. I think Vegas is starting to show signs of, hey, let's get our game in gear for the playoffs. I'm really starting to like what I'm seeing from them the last few games. I just think from a price standpoint, pretty cheap here with Vegas, minus 120 in this game. That's the side for me. Alex, what do you think? Golden Knights, Wild.
Yeah, I didn't bet anything in this, but the only way I would be looking would be Vegas, and I probably will end up grabbing that before game time. But minus $1.20, that's a decent price. Like you said, this is just a team in better form. They know that they have to kind of, things aren't solidified in stone for this Knights team. Obviously, now going back and forth, they're currently sitting in third in the Pacific, but third in the Pacific, that means the next spot is the second and final wild card spot. So you don't want to play with fire here. Don't screw around against a bad team, even if you are going on the road. This is a business trip. You got into St. Paul last night, head over to the rink, get the job done early, and grab 2 points. So, yeah, I'm going with Vegas at a cheap price here.
All right, Alex looking like he likes Vegas here as well. I was not impressed with Minnesota either against San Jose. That was not a dominating performance against a team that's been absolutely brutal lately. That's not something that gives me a whole lot of confidence, too. And another thing, too, is there's been way too much of a reliance on Kaprizov for this Minnesota team lately. Thankfully, they have at least Eriksson Ek back in the lineup now, but there just hasn't been. And Marco Rossi finally woke up for one game, and then he did nothing the next game. And he had been really in the tank lately for the Minnesota Wild after a strong start to the year. And you get absolutely nothing, zero from the bottom six. So you don't even think about looking for them for any offense for this Minnesota Wild team. Vegas, on the other hand, they can get offense from a lot of different sources, which is why from a prop standpoint, there's a lot of good options here. Number one right now, or actually 1A and 1B, they're the two top goal prop options. One is my guy, Close Shave Barbashev. Ivan Barbashev is really starting to heat up right now for Vegas. I think he's got like 4 goals in the last 3 or 4 games, a multi-goal game in there as well. You can get him at plus 410, believe it or not, to score a goal in this game. Ivan Barbashev, with how good he has been lately for the Golden Knights. And the other is Pavel Dorofeev. He has been absolutely terrific. I think 3 goals in the last 4 or 5 games from him. Getting opportunity up the lineup, plus 450 on Pavel Dorofeev to find the back of the net. So you've got Barbashev and Dorofeev, Alex. You could argue they're the 2 hottest goal scorers on the team right now, north of plus 400 to score a goal in this game. So absolutely, Barbashev and Dorofeev are worth goal props here, worth goal prop bets in this game. Carlson's been an assist machine, plus 176 for him to get an assist. You can even sprinkle on the goal prop for him, plus 275. And Shea Theodore's been an assist monster, and just he's been piling up the points and mostly assists. So Shea Theodore point prop, assist prop probably is a good look as well here in this game for the Vegas Golden Knights as well. Those are the main ones. Those are all the hot zones. If you were to bet player props based on hot zones and which players are producing a lot right now, Theodore assists and points, Dorofeev and Barbashev from a goal standpoint, there's definitely good positive expectation value with a lot of Vegas props here in this game against Minnesota. The only concern would be sometimes Minnesota can drag into a low-scoring game, and I know they're probably going to try to do that here, but if Vegas finds the back of the net, those would be a lot of the good sources you want to look at as far as making that offensive production a reality in this game for the Golden Knights. All right, next up, we've got Anaheim and Edmonton. This is the third and final of the afternoon slate of games here on this Saturday card. We've got Edmonton. We've got Edmonton's mine. I'm seeing upwards. This shows you how bad Anaheim is, and we know Edmonton's obviously been playing good. This is one of the bigger favorites of the entire season. Minus 610 for the Edmonton Oilers here in this game. Again, let me repeat that. Edmonton Oilers minus 610. You got to lay 610 to win 100 on the Edmonton Oilers if you are so inclined and interested, and I would not suggest that. I'm even seeing minus 650, which is the high watermark, if you will, on the Oilers at Caesars. So, from that standpoint, it's shocking to see just how big of a favorite they are here. Just not that shocking because Anaheim's bad, but wow, that it's this big, that it's this large, the number. 6.5 the total. So then I look in this game, and the first thing I did when I looked at this game is there anything we can do to make a case for Anaheim right now? I mean, we're talking a plus 450 underdog. I know they've been brutal. What is it, 1-9 in their last 10 games? And I think their only win was against a terrible hockey team I think it was Chicago. Yeah, it was the one of the wins they had against Chicago. They haven't beaten anybody else in their last 10. And then you look at what Edmonton has done against Anaheim this year. They have pulverized this team every single time they have played, every time. So normally you would look at this, hey, maybe a little flat spot for the Oilers. Not if you look at the series history. They have played their best game. They have played well against Anaheim this year. 3 head-to-head meetings. You want the cumulative score of the 3 head-to-head meetings, Ducks and Oilers this year? How about Edmonton 20, Anaheim 7? 20-7 in the 3 head-to-head games in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. 8, 7, and 5, the goals scored by the Edmonton Oilers in the 3 head-to-head games against the Anaheim Ducks. So what I did is I actually laid $1.50 with Edmonton team total over 4 at BetMGM. Now it's over 4.5 plus price at most books. So if you don't want to lay the juice, I would say just take the over 4.5. But, I'm not going to overthink it or reinvent the wheel. I see an Anaheim team that is completely down and out, awful right now. I see an Edmonton team that has scored 20 goals in 3 games against them this season, 8, 7, and 5. They have scored a minimum of 5 goals in each game this year against Anaheim, and 5 goals cashes your ticket here if Edmonton gets to 5. So Edmonton team total over 4/4.5, whichever you prefer. And I also like the full game over 6.5. I'm going to split it with that because it's also been an over series history. Obviously, a lot of the heavy lifting has been done by the Oilers offensively, but you look at this year, 3 overs, 8-2, 7-2, 5-3. The final scores in those games, all in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. So I'm going to do an Oilers team total, full game over split here with Anaheim and Edmonton. And we do think John Gibson will be in net, which makes this probably an even more positive expectation type of bet when you see his name possibly in between the pipes. The projections right now are Gibson and Skinner as the goalies here in this afternoon matinee affair in oil country. What do you think here, Alex? Anaheim, Edmonton.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that John Gibson, if you said this 4 or 5 years ago, that he'd be in goal late in the season and, playing on a team where they're underdogs and the favorites minus 610. That's just asinine. But there's no way to back Anaheim. There's just no way to back them at all. Even if it was Dostal in it, you still can't take them plus 450. That being said, I don't want anything to do with Edmonton as far as a whole collective, because how many times have we seen teams shit the bed minus 500, minus 600? It's just dangerous territory to be in. I'm sticking with player props. I have 2 anytime goal scorers. Adam Henrique, which I'm sure you'll talk about, and of course Evan Bouchard, a guy we've been cashing with quite a bit. I got Evan Bouchard plus 390. It's not bargain. It's bargain bin level, but it's not my bargain bin play. That's just another goal scorer that I do have. So those are just the 2 things I'm looking on. I also have a little bit of first period over 1.5 minus $1.45. That's the cheapest price I can find it because I want to use that and then try to grab a better price in game. Same thing with the full game over. I'm not betting the full game over pregame. I want to hope to get something plus money or 5.5 laying. I'll lay up to $1.30 with 5.5 if it drops down there. for this one. So a little bit of live looks and a couple of goal scorer props, but nothing side and nothing full game total pregame.
Yeah, I mean, it's look, I'm going to be watching this game for sure. If Edmonton even looks early in the game like they're the least bit sleepy, just to protect my butt a little bit, I might jump in on a little +4, just small, because Anaheim's tough to trust. But only if I see Edmonton sleepy, like really, really dopey, really out of it. It's like they've been a tranquilizer dart got put in them or something, And it's, but again, if you're basing it off series history, you wouldn't expect that, because Edmonton's just drilled this team, dummied this team 3 times this year, and the game in Edmonton was the worst of the 3. They actually destroyed the Ducks in Anaheim. In Edmonton, it was even worse. It was like 8-2. Like I say, I've got to see Edmonton look flat before I believe it.
Yeah, full game overs 11-2 last 13, and the first period overs in that same streak 9-3.
There you go. I do like a lot of props, mostly Edmonton. One I do like from Anaheim, and I don't usually do this. I don't usually bet a goal prop for someone that's ice cold, but I'm going to do that. Ryan Strome, because it's Oilers were one of his former teams. Ryan Strome here for the Anaheim Ducks. And then all the other props I like in this game are mostly Edmonton props. And there's a bunch I like. I'm going to do a Zach Hyman over 1.5 goals plus 550 because he actually scored 2 goals against Anaheim in Edmonton earlier this year. And because, he can't be stopped right now. And split with over 1.5 points plus 185. Adam Henrique, yes, that's the obvious one. Alex mentioned it, plus 300 against his old team. And he did score the last game as well for the Edmonton Oilers. Over 1.5 points as well at plus 550 for Adam Henrique. I sprinkled on that to get a 2-point night for the former Anaheim Duck, now a member of the Edmonton Oilers. So plus 550 for Henrique over 1.5 points. Fogle, McLeod, and Perry. 3 guys that are going to play on either the second or the third line. I think this is one of those games where we can count on Edmonton's depth to come through for them. Fogle plus 400, McLeod plus 550, and Corey Perry plus 400. And remember, this is the team he started his career with what feels like ages ago, the Anaheim Ducks, when they won the Stanley Cup, of course, way back in 2007, really early in his career there. Definitely there's a bunch of props that stand out here. Hopefully he's Corey Perry today, indeed, against his former team, the Anaheim Ducks. All right, the rest of the games are night games. The next 2 are very early night games. They're 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central start times, the next 2 games. New York Rangers, Arizona Coyotes. We've got the Rangers minus 190, road favorites, 6.5 the total. Here in this game. It looks like it's just 6 with the total here in this game with the Rangers and the Coyotes. First thing that stands out to me about this game, for as red hot and as amazing a run as this has been for the Rangers, this has been a hell of a week for Peter Laviolette and the New York Rangers. You beat Boston and Florida, huge wins back-to-back at home. You have the barn burner with Philly, which went back and forth, like a tennis match. They're just returning serves back and forth. And finally, the Rangers prevailed in overtime against the Flyers in a barn burner of a game. And then they follow that up, the New York Rangers, with an incredible victory in Colorado to start this road trip against the Avalanche. And John Massey, I know the Rangers fan of our great Ice Guys family, he was happy as hell to see it. And they played a great game. Shesterkin was a brick wall. 40 saves? He was outstanding. That's twice now Colorado's been goalied, if you will. Montembeault did it early in the week with Montreal, and then Shesterkin did it to them for the Rangers the other night. So suddenly the goaltenders have been an impediment lately for the Avs. But huge win for the Rangers, especially because they gave up the first goal. They battled back in the third, won it in a shootout. Shesterkin was great. And not only that, they went to Colorado, tough place to win against a great team, beat Colorado, and they snapped Nathan MacKinnon's incredible home point streak, which was closing in on 40 games. And somehow, some way, Nathan MacKinnon's streak gets snapped by the New York Rangers in that game. Just an incredible win. But coming off everything they've gone through, Boston win, Florida win, Philly barn burner, which was electric. The Colorado win, huge. God, does this ever feel like a flat spot and a fall-down spot waiting to happen for the New York Rangers here in Mullet Arena against the Arizona Coyotes this afternoon? And it's against an Arizona team that, I'm telling you what, they are drinking from the fountain of youth, and they are loving how it tastes right now with the Arizona Coyotes, because this youth group up front for the Arizona Coyotes. It's been outstanding what they are getting from the kids right now. The kids are all right for the Arizona Coyotes right now. Gunther, Logan Cooley has a hat trick. Josh Doan steps into the lineup, scores 2 goals in his NHL debut. Did you know that guy's, I think, got 11 or 12 shots on goal in 2 games combined in the NHL? Like I say, I've stayed away big time from shots on goal, but that guy right now over shots might be worth a look with the way he's firing the puck and the volume of shooting he's having right now for the Coyotes. But, there's just a lot to like right now with Arizona. They're playing with great energy, great enthusiasm. They do have a tremendous amount of skill and ability up front. That was never the issue. It's just the issue at times was defensively and their goaltending. But, they're playing some good hockey. They're playing winning hockey in their last 7 games. 5-2 Arizona in their last 7 games. They've won 3 of the 4 games so far on this very lengthy homestand, a homestand that still has 3 more games. This one, and then they have Vancouver and Vegas coming to town after this. So it's been a good run for Arizona. I feel this could be a live dog personally here. I don't know if I've got the guts to fade New York with just how amazing they've been, but if ever the Rangers are going to stink the joint up, it could be here. It could be here in this spot this afternoon against Arizona in this game. Not to mention here, also another important thing to factor in for this Rangers-Coyotes matchup taking place early this evening is this might be the spot where Peter Laviolette gives Igor Shesterkin a little break. We might see Jonathan Quick. I'm not saying we will for sure, but keep an eye on this, that maybe, just maybe, Jonathan Quick gets the nod here in between the pipes for the New York Rangers this afternoon. It looks like Karel Vejmelka is projected, not confirmed, though, for the Arizona Coyotes in this game. There's actually we'll see what the goalie situation is definitely something I'm going to be monitoring, because if it's quick, I'm definitely veering toward possibly over trifecta in this game with Rangers and Coyotes. Definitely, if that's the case. Even if it isn't him and it's Shesterkin, this is not a great Rangers spot. I'm very tempted by Arizona plus 160 and also the draw. So basically, stay tuned is what I'm saying. I haven't moved on this game yet, but I will based on what happens as far as the goaltending scenario for the New York Rangers. If it's quick, I like the over trifecta, and I think regardless, I'll take a stab with Arizona and the draw split in this game with the Rangers and the Coyotes. And like I say, if it's quick, I'll add the over trifecta because I think we'll see goals. And we might see goals anyway with Shesterkin, just because I think the Rangers defensively, they've poured in a lot defensively the last few games, especially that Colorado game to keep that team off the scoreboard. This could be a spot here where, they rest, not rest, but, they're not quite as locked in and geared in defensively here in this game. And Arizona's got a lot of speed to challenge the Rangers, and we've seen that on full display here in some of their recent games. So like I said, I've definitely got a lot of potential bets circled here, but just waiting on the goalie news for the Rangers. What do you think here, Alex? Rangers, Coyotes?
Yeah, this one probably going to end up being a pass for me. Like I said, I was kind of torn on this spot as well. Like I said, it seems like it could be a potential bad flat spot for the Rangers, but I'm just not really in the business of trusting Arizona down the stretch here as well. So I'm just going to pass on this game.
Nothing wrong with that. I will say this about Arizona's run. The Nashville win was the great win, but Columbus, Seattle, Detroit, New Jersey, other than Nashville, this is an even better team than Nashville. So it's probably better than any team they've beaten during this 7 game run that Arizona's had, where they've gone 5-2. But like I said, it's just handicapping 101. This is not a spot where I'm laying minus 190 or wanting the Rangers in any way, shape, or form. Just with what we've seen from them here the last few games and everything they've gone through, they're definitely good enough to win this game still, and maybe Arizona's not good enough to capitalize on this kind of spot. But this is definitely a dubious one for the New York Rangers. We'll see how it goes. As far as props for this game, look, Logan Cooley and Josh Doan have to be on your goal prop card right now. Even Josh Doan not scoring the last game wasn't for lack of trying. He still fired a bunch of shots on goal. He's got like double-digit shots in 2 games combined. So Josh Doan's worth a look again. Logan Cooley's worth a look. Dylan Gunther. And another thing, too, Clayton Keller's played great lately, and it's a big reason why Arizona's had this recent uptick in performance. For the New York Rangers, Kakko scored against Colorado. I keep thinking, if he starts scoring, if he can score 1 goal, maybe it gets him going, but so many times I'm wrong about that, so I'm a little bit leery. Roslovic on the top line. I would say stick with Vinny Trocheck here and Panarin. Vinny Trocheck, Panarin have certainly been very good lately for the New York Rangers. I mean, Panarin over 1.5 points. How many times has that, cashed in the last several games and last couple weeks? Definitely a bunch of times. All right, next up, we've got another 6 p.m. Eastern start time with this one. The Nashville Predators and the Colorado Avalanche. Very intriguing matchup here. We've got Colorado minus 170, home favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. How about Colorado? Back-to-back home losses to the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Rangers. And like I said earlier, they got goalied in both games. Montembeault was outstanding, had a bunch of chances, just couldn't find a way to solve him. And you could say the same thing about the loss to the New York Rangers the other night. Igor Shesterkin was just absolutely outstanding for the Rangers in that game. 40 shots, 40 saves, and the Rangers beat the Avs in a show. So that's 2 very rare home losses in a row for Colorado. I haven't looked to see when the last time Colorado lost 3 home games in a row was, but it's got to be a long time. I think maybe years, quite possibly, that they've lost 3 home games in a row. I don't think I want to step in front of Colorado in this spot. And I also don't trust Nashville in this spot because the consecutive game point streak ended with a thud against Arizona, 8-4 loss to the Coyotes. 16-0-2 is now 16-1-2. Their first game in the last 19 where they have not collected a point. The streak is finally over. And does the bubble burst theory come into play here? It's a theory I use a lot in other sports. College football, which I've been handicapping for years and over a decade. When a team goes 9-0 to start a season, and late in the season they lose that first game, I like to fade them after they lose that first game. It's a little hangover type deal. And maybe this is what comes into play here for Nashville. That was such a long streak, collecting at least 1 point, 16-0-2. Now the streak snapped, and does the regression start to hit this team? Because for as great as they played, and they are still a very good team, and they've played great, and I think they're dangerous in the first round, there's going to be a little leveling off. There has to be at least a little bit in what we've seen out of Nashville the last few games, or not the last few, the last 19 games from what we've seen out of them. So it feels like a Colorado spot to me. It really, really does. I don't trust Nashville after getting the streak, the consecutive game point streak snap. Like I said, sometimes there's a little letdown theory, hangover theory in play in a spot like this involving a team like Nashville when they go on that kind of run, and now the run is over of consecutive games with a point. I like quite possibly over trifecta here in this. I do like over trifecta in this game, and I like it regardless of who's in net for these respective teams here in this game. Saros and Georgiev are projected, the starting goalies here in this game. I think this is a game for the Avs to get some offense going. It's time. Like, this is too good of a team offensively to just be held to what? 1 goal or 2 goals against Montreal, 1 goal against the Rangers the other night. There's been some chinks in the armor with Saros. Let's not forget that. Hell, Saros got pulled the other night against the Arizona Coyotes. So I think this is the spot for Colorado to get themselves going and rolling again offensively, at least a little bit. Again, Nashville, we did see them give up 4 to Arizona. Even in the win against Vegas, they gave up 4 goals in that game too. So it's not like Nashville's been a brick wall the last 2 games defensively. So for me, it'll be over trifecta. Both teams to score first period, over 1.5 first period, over 6.5 full game. Actually, you know what? With the 6.5, I'm seeing some 6s. DraftKings has 6 minus 125. So shop around, get the 6 for that full game over. What do you think here, Alex? Nashville, Colorado.
Yeah, so I'm going with the first period looks. I like the first period over 1.5 minus $1.30. Cash in 10 of the last 13 meetings between these two teams. And as you mentioned, 2 goaltenders that are solid goaltenders, but they've seen a lot of work this year. And you kind of worry about the fatigue. I worry even more so about the fatigue with Georgiev. But I do also have a little dabble on the draw. I grabbed plus 330. I think like the Nashville, they're just such a resilient team. And I get where you see this could be a bit of a letdown spot, but they just find their way to grind it out and play well, and especially against top-tier opponents. They play Colorado much tighter now than they did, say, when these two teams met in the postseason a couple of years ago. Things have shifted a little bit. So I could see this game maybe slowing down a little bit late. That's why I'm not on that full game over and leaning more toward the draw. But definitely loving the first period over looks. Both teams to score as well.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I certainly am not laying it with Colorado. I'm just saying I'd be leery that Colorado wakes up from their little slumber here today. And, sometimes they can. This is what Colorado's done in the past. Sometimes you start to get a little, leery of them, and you start to wonder, hey, what the hell's going on with Colorado? And the next thing you know, they beat a team like this 5-1 or 5-2 at home. And I'm not saying that's going to happen tonight because Nashville's obviously been hottest team in the NHL for the last almost a month. But that could happen. Colorado could awaken. There's been enough, vulnerability in the defense of Nashville the last few games, not to mention Nashville's coming off the bubble burst of the consecutive game point streak being snapped. That being said, like if you're going to play the money line at this price right now, I still think you have to either take a shot again with Nashville or you pass here at considering this is a team that's still 16-1-2 and they're getting in their last 19 games and they're getting plus 150 here in this game against a team that suddenly can't score. But again, do we really, really honestly, can we look ourselves in the mirror and honestly say Colorado's going to keep not scoring today and moving forward? No, especially on home ice. They're going to bust out of it when you've got the ability and you've got the puck movement from the back end that they have. As far as props for this Colorado game, Middlestat is starting to pick things up offensively. Hell, he got their only goal, I believe, against the Rangers the other night. Lehkonen on the second line as well. Jonathan Drouin still has good value as long as he stays up there with Rantanen and McKinnon on the top line for Colorado. I mean, for Nashville, it's Phil Forsberg until further notice. I mean, even against Arizona where they lost 8-4, he still hit his goal prop. He still went over 1.5 points. Over 1.5 points with Forsberg and with Roman Josi as well from the blue line. You parlay those two over 1.5 points lately, you've been cashing in left and right. They have been getting multi-point games left and right repeatedly for this Predators team during this great run that they have. So those are definitely some props worthy of consideration here for Preds Avs in this game tonight. All right, we move along to the next one on the slate. New York Islanders. Gosh, yeah, I should just pass on Islanders games for the rest of the season. This team is just ridiculous. It's like schizophrenia. What's that Eminem song? Schizophrenia. How many of you got it? The Islanders have it. That's what they have right now. Schizophrenia. How on earth did they beat Florida and get shut out by Kaapo Kähkönen? This has happened to the New York Islanders in the last week. They beat the Florida Panthers, but they also get shut out by Kaapo Kähkönen. I said that on Twitter the other day. Make that make sense, okay? Make that make sense. Tampa Bay minus 160, home favorites. 6 the total here in this game. I like the draw in this game if I'm going to do anything. That's what I would look at. These two teams are in kind of different playoff races right now. Tampa Bay, by the way, closing the gap on Toronto, where they could actually move up to third in the Atlantic. I don't know if that's something that I don't know if Tampa Bay or Toronto, Alex, want third in the Atlantic right now because it means you have to play Boston or Florida. But then again, people are talking about, Boston and Florida. You don't want to play those teams. If you drop to the first wild card, it's not like the Rangers and the Hurricanes are a picnic or a walk in the park in the first round. I think that's the biggest bunch of nonsense I've ever heard. These are all going to be tough series. Boston, Florida, Rangers, Hurricanes, especially with the way Rangers and Hurricanes are playing right now. So this, especially in the Toronto media here, they're making it. And I know the Leafs kind of had the issues with the Panthers and especially the Bruins. There's no question. But let's not make it sound like if the Leafs play the Rangers or the Hurricanes instead, it's marching on to the second round just like that. I mean, my goodness, it's totally absurd to think something like that. But at the same point in time, I think from Toronto, because of their issues with Boston and Florida, I could see them maybe wanting to take a little different opponent, fresh look, different, type of opposition in the playoffs than what they've seen the last couple of years. But I think when you look at this year, again, the Islanders, the one thing about the Islanders is lately they've been putting their best games on the board against better teams. I think we're starting to see that, right? They lose to New Jersey, shut out, but they've also beaten the Panthers. And if you remember last weekend, they absolutely dummied the Winnipeg Jets on home ice in that game. So Patrick Waugh's team has had a little bit of this playing up and down to competition lately going on. So that's why I think this is a competitive game. I would lean to the draw here in this matchup. There are some props I like. Duclair, people are already onto it in the chat. Of course, Anthony Duclair, but especially Braden Point. Braden Point's been on fire. And the Point Kucherov over 1.5 point parlay it's been paying off pretty decently lately. I could see that being in play once again here in this one. What do you think here, Alex? Islanders, Lightning.
Yeah, the only thing I like here is the first period over, 1.5 minus $1.25. We've seen it cash in 4 of the last 6 meetings. Tampa's been on a 13-3 run the last 16, and we've seen the Islanders. We've seen the Islanders alternate. Yeah, 3 of the last 5 for the Islanders to the first period over. So that's the only thing I have. Draw makes a little bit of sense, but it's not one of my favorite spots. It didn't light up to me as much as the first period over did.
Yeah, this is one too where first full game over I lean, but first period over is the stronger bet. If I'm betting over by Fecta here, I'm putting a higher percentage on the first period over in this game. There's no question. And you're right. I remember the last time they played, Alex, it was in UBS Arena. I remember it was tons of goals in the first period of that game. Yeah. And then it kind of slowed down after that. So very interesting to see how this game plays out. But like I said, first period 13-3 run, as Alex mentioned, for Tampa Bay, first period over. Between these two teams. Very, very cautious, tight, defensive-minded start here with the Red Wings and the Panthers. Halfway through the first period, still scoreless with the Red Wings and the Panthers in that one. All right, so as far as props, by the way, for that game, for the Lightning, I already mentioned most of the ones I like there in that game. For the Islanders, yeah, not too much. I try to stay away from their props because they could score 3 or 4 and then get shut out. But I'm going to go back to the well of Hudson Fasching. As long as he stays on the second line with Matt Barzal, I think there's pretty good value on Hudson Fasching right now for the New York Islanders as far as scoring a goal. Okay, next up, we've got the Boston Bruins and the Washington Capitals. Very interesting a matchup here. We got Boston, minus 165 road favorites. Total in this one, 5.5, shaded to the over. You've got, obviously, the Bruins in a battle right now with the Florida Panthers for a top spot in the Atlantic Division. And funny thing is, both teams are still live for the President's Trophy as well. Not that that's something you want to win based on recent playoff history, but they are still alive for it. Boston here, a sizable road favorite. I was disappointed with Washington against Toronto the other night. I expected more, especially when Toronto kicked their ass in Washington the week before, and Toronto kicked their ass again, 5-1 the other night. The Leafs with a pretty commanding performance against the Capitals. I don't want to lay this price with Boston. I don't know if I'm ready to talk myself into Washington necessarily here in this game. That being said, if you actually look at the series history, Capitals have taken 3 of the last 5 against the Boston Bruins. And I still remember the last meeting, which was in Boston, February 10th. It was that Saturday afternoon game. It was Boston played one of the worst games they'll ever play. They were awful. They did nothing. There was no compete. There was no effort. They were just like they were skating in quicksand. And I knew it was a mother of all flat spots, too, for the Bruins, but they were beyond bad in that game against Washington on home ice last month. 3-0 shutout against the Capitals in that game. We'll see if they can respond. They've lost 3 of their last 4, Boston. So I know it's a bounce back spot in theory after the Tampa loss. And by the way, the Tampa loss, kind of predictable, 3-1, because the huge game with Florida the night before, physical. They hate that Panthers team and vice versa. It was a playoff type game. They steal it at the end. They were down 3-2. They come back and beat Florida 4-3. Predictable kind of hangover spot against Tampa. They didn't have a whole lot in their a whole lot of energy, a whole lot in their legs that night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we'll see if Boston can bounce back here against Washington. Maybe this is a draw candidate. I mean, I could make a case for that potentially, but I don't love it. There's not a whole lot I love in this game. 5.5. Could you get there with the over? Maybe. I mean, you're talking about Boston. Picking things up a little bit offensively. I mean, Boston's 4-2 to the over in their last 6 games. And we know Washington's kind of trended that way as well. 4-1-1 to the over in their last 6 games. And the games basically been back and forth with overs and unders, but it's still actually, if you look at the last 7 meetings with the Bruins and the Capitals, 4-2-1 is what we're looking at with the over. So I'm going to talk myself into the over for something small here, especially with it being 5.5 and not a 6 or a 6.5. Alex, oh, by the way, Red Wings are on the board. 1-0 Detroit. Wow. They on the board first against the Florida Panthers. Alex, what do you think here? Bruins, Capitals.
Yeah, I might look for the first period over in game. This is it's a cheap price already, minus $1.15, minus $1.20. But I'm gonna wait and try and get plus 120, plus 125. Boston has gone over in the first period in 3 of the last 4 road games. Like I said, they need to get things rolling a little bit. Maybe we can see them get some offense gelling early, and then things can maybe taper off from there. So this is an in-game look. Anything plus $1.20 or higher. So we're waiting about maybe 3 to 4 minutes because it's already such a low pick-em price to start on the first period over.
We already have goalies confirmed. Both teams here. Jeremy Swayman, Charlie Lindgren, your starting goaltenders here for the Bruins. I think that's good for the over, quite honestly. Jeremy Swayman hasn't been as good as Linus Ullmark lately for the Bruins. And Jimmy Murphy was on last Friday. He said that. Since the All-Star break, Ullmark's looked like Vezina Ullmark again. And Jeremy Swayman looks like he's, another one of these goalies where the workload's getting to him a little bit. So, and great. Hey, LJ from H-Town, who's a Pub Sports Radio crew member. In the chat with us here, noting that the Capitals are 20-8 to the over in their last 28 games. So there you go. That's a very good stay. 5.5. I'm in. I mean, we're not asking for a 6 or a 6.5 total here. It's 5.5. I think we can get over that number here with the Bruins and the Capitals, especially because you've got Boston off a loss and you got Washington off a bad loss. So there should be some aggression to get going quickly, and that may speak to what Alex was saying with the first period over as well. See, now I'm talking myself into over by factor. See what happens when you start to talk things out a little bit.
You got to sound it out from time to time.
You do sometimes. The over by factor, definitely, I think I might get involved with that. Zaka, Brazeau, I'm going to go back to the well with Brazeau again, even though now it's been a couple of games without him. If it doesn't score again, maybe we back off, but we'll take a shot again. Zaka for sure for Boston. He's been one of their better forwards here in recent games as far as offensive production. It looks like Marchand, Zaka, and Pasternak going to be the second. And I still think with Coyle, you've got Trent Frederick up there and Danton Heinen. I think there's value still with both of them. Heinen and Frederick with Charlie Coyle on the second line for the Bruins. And then for Washington, Connor McMichael has been one of their better forwards offensively lately. Of course, it looks like Tom Wilson still out serving the suspension. But McMichael with Oshie and Ovechkin's been good. Strome's been really good lately. Alex's guy, Sonny Milano's now on the second line as well with Strome. So keep an eye on him. There might be some value there. So it's actually not a bad game. There's some props here and some players that have value based on where they're positioned here in the lineup tonight. All right, next up, all-Canadian matchup. Ottawa Senators, Winnipeg Jets. We've got Winnipeg minus 200, home favorites, 6 being the total in this game. You know what, Alex? I'm taking a shot with Ottawa here. I am. Plus 170. I like their form. They're playing free and easy, carefree hockey, not a fucking care in the world. They're not going anywhere. And this is when Ottawa thrives, when they're not going anywhere. And there's nothing on the line. And they go on this red-hot run down the stretch. I just don't love the vibes right now with Winnipeg. Coming out like they've had 2 cracks at it now in order to try to win games with Rick Bowness back. And they fell short both times. Now close games. They lost in Edmonton to overtime. And then you look at the last game against Vegas. It was a close game. It's not like they were beaten badly, but they couldn't get the job done. To me, it's just Winnipeg minus 200 right now. And especially when we know that this team has put a sample size on the board last year of flaming out and just absolutely, cratering in the second half of the season last. That's what they did. They cratered. They fell apart second half of last season. And we're starting to see signs that they're doing the exact same damn thing right now, that they are starting to crumble again. And, whether it's the long season or whether it's the pressure and the high level of stress that late season going into the playoff hockey brings with it, Winnipeg is not handling it well right now. Their offense has gone dormant. Their defensive game has gone away a little bit. Connor Hellebuck is fighting the puck. He has really had multiple rough starts of late for the Winnipeg Jets. He is in net tonight. It is Jonas Korpisalo here for the Ottawa Senators. And again, he hasn't had a very good season, Jonas Korpisalo. But he has gone on a stretch here where he's won each of his last 3 starts, and he's given up just 7 goals in the last 3 starts combined for the Ottawa Senators. So he's picked it up a little, just like the entire team. Korpisalo's gone like with the team. Now that the pressure's off and there's no playoffs to be had, they're going to just have some fun, relax, play good hockey, and look at what they're doing. And they have shown the ability to beat good teams as well, Ottawa, during this little run they've put together. So, yeah, I'm going to take a little shot here. Ottawa plus 170. Of course, there's always the worry that the better of these two teams, which is still Winnipeg, wakes up bounces back, gets out of this little skid that they're on. But at this price, you're paying a premium, in my opinion, to ask Winnipeg to get out of this slide at minus 200. So I'm going to take a shot here with the dog. Ottawa plus 170. Alex, what do you think here? Sens, Jets.
Yeah, I'll just root you home for this one. This is a pass for me. This is one of the two games when I looked at this morning, just didn't like anything here. Like I said, don't like the form of the Jets. And Ottawa plays well. Like I said, when it's roll the puck out time, playing for exercise, they definitely kind of take a step up. But I'm not willing to with a big card here, I'm not willing to jump in on it.
And by the way, Ottawa offensively, what the hell's gotten into them? I mean, that's another thing during this little run that they've put together. Their offense has just been great. They're scoring goals left and right. 6, 5, and 5. They only scored 2 against Chicago, but they pitched a shutout in that game, did Korpisalo in that one. So like I said, 4 straight wins. They had a win against Edmonton during that stretch as well on home ice. Like I say, I mean, plus 170, I'm very interested. Now, they don't have a good track record against Winnipeg. Winnipeg's beaten them 4 times in a row. That is something they have to overcome. But like I said, I just don't like the form. The Winnipeg form right now is not the form of a team that, in my opinion, should be trusted as minus 200 favorites. This is minus 150 on Winnipeg. Okay, we're not interested. But minus 200 now it's opening up a little value on Ottawa. And what I'll probably do with Hellebuck's struggles lately for the Jets as well, I'll probably split this between Ottawa money line and the team total, which is a very, very cheap over 2.5, minus 110 here. On the Ottawa Senators with their team total in this game. So that's usually what I like to do with the big dogs. How many times have I said it? We have a big dog. They sometimes will lose the game, but they'll still hit their team total. It's exactly what happened with Buffalo in Edmonton recently. Remember, they scored 3 or 4 goals in that game. The 3 goals, they hit the team total, but they ended up losing the game. So like I said, the Ottawa team total, we'll look at that as a potential option here. Split that up with the Senators money line. Batherson, Pinto, Stützle, those are all guys that are red hot right now. Chychrun shooting the puck a lot, as we've mentioned. Maybe his prop's worth a look. For Winnipeg, there's really one player I have faith in right now. It's the guy they got at the deadline, Sean Monahan. He's been the one guy that's been a capable, reliable source here for the Jets of late. Jets definitely need Gabe Vilardi back. They miss him. And the good news is Gabe Vilardi, it looks like, is going to be back here from his spleen injury, and it couldn't come at a better time for them. They need him desperately back in the lineup, and he will return on the top line for the Winnipeg Jets. So Monahan, and again, I don't always love backing a player off a long injury and returning. Sometimes it takes them a couple games to ramp up, but they need offense right now, and Gabe Vilardi's as good as anybody to give them some offense. So I'd still maybe sprinkle on a Gabe Vilardi prop potentially for Winnipeg tonight in his return to the lineup, especially because he's playing with Scheifele and with Connor on the top line tonight, returning to that familiar position. All right, next up, we've got Carolina, Montreal. Carolina minus 260, road favorites. The total in this one currently is 6 shaded to the under in this matchup. Dangerous spot for Carolina potentially, just given the way Montreal's played all of a sudden the last few games. They beat Colorado on the road. They return home against a Philadelphia team playing for everything right now, and a very solid win against the Flyers, returning home off a long road trip too. And they didn't have that typical hangover type spot, the Montreal Canadiens. So this is not going to be a guaranteed win night, if you will, even though Carolina is the much better team. And we've talked about the schedule and how it's been unrelenting to the Carolina Hurricanes. The number of games they've played in such a short, condensed period of time. The number of games are adding up. We'll see if they can maybe overcome that here tonight against the Montreal Canadiens and still win. Looks like as far as the goaltending here in this game tonight with the Canes and the Habs, Montembeault is confirmed for Montreal. Not a surprise. Marty St. Louis has been kind of going back and forth lately, Montembeault and Primo. And it looks like it's going to be Pyotr Kochetkov for Carolina, but that is not confirmed. I don't know if I have the guts to take Montreal again, even though they're playing better. And I like my guy Kochetkov, so if he's in net, I may lay off, but maybe a sprinkle on the draw. Other than that, not a lot. Maybe I'll look at a couple props, including Seth Jarvis. Got to keep going back to that well right now for Carolina. And also Jake Gensel. Jake Gensel assist prop. Jake Gensel over 1.5 points as well. He's had an unreal amount of multi-point games already since he's joined the Carolina Hurricanes. And you talk about just a seamless fit for Jake Gensel since he's joined the Carolina Hurricanes. So those are my favorite props. Jarvis goal and Gensel over 1.5 points on the Carolina side. For Montreal, I'd say Slavkovsky and Newhook. Those have been the guys really stepping it up lately for them. Alex, what do you think here, Carolina, Montreal?
So this sets up for a really good live spot, just looking at these trends. I like the first period over 1.5 minus $1.20. We've seen this cash in 6 of the last 7 meetings, but we've also seen quite a few unders. We've seen, for some reason, these two teams get a lot of goals early, and then things taper off. So I'm looking for possibly a spot to where we can maybe grab a 6.5 or a 7.5 in game coming back after hitting that. Hopefully that first period over. So land $1.20 with the first period over, but that's shaping up for a little bit of a bigger bet in game on a live under. I definitely could see where maybe the Habs gives the Canes some trouble here playing well. With it, Carolina, the team already has their playoff spot solidified. They're still kind of battling for things, so it's not necessarily the just a rest spot. But it should be coming up pretty soon, especially with, like I said, how condensed their schedule has been of late. So first period over 1.5 minus $1.20, and then that's shaping us up for hopefully to look for a live under somewhere in the second period.
Carolina's won 8 in a row against Montreal, by the way, so that's some damning series. That's why I talked myself out of Montreal when I saw that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going against that kind of a history. But again, I still worry about this schedule. It's a lot of games. It didn't show up against Detroit. They did play well. Maybe they can fight through it, but it's just pretty absurd what Carolina has gone through as far as scheduling. Not only that, but you actually look at not only a lot of games in a short period of time. What's happening here? Like they have all these games. They have 3 on the road, 1 back home, back on the road at Washington, back home for 1 against Toronto, back on the road at Pittsburgh, back home for 1 against Detroit, and now they're on the road again tonight against Montreal. I mean, it's just the travel too. Where's the elongated homestand to give this team a little freaking break here, a little catch their breath? I mean, my gosh, talk about not having a favor done for you by the schedule makers for this Carolina team. All right, Pittsburgh, Columbus. I think the only thing worth watching in this game is probably the pregame festivities for the great longtime TV voice of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Jeff Rimmer, who is retiring at the end of this year, and they're doing a big ceremony to honor him in his final season, and they're doing the ceremony tonight. It's what Buffalo did, last couple of seasons with the late, great Rick Jeanneret. It's what Chicago did late in the season of Pat Foley's final season. It's just they do the ceremony when the season is winding down, a way to pay tribute to a guy that has been the TV voice of the Blue Jackets since day one of the franchise. He has been there right from the very beginning, Jeff Rimmer. He worked with Danny Gare for a bit. He's been working with Jody Shelley the last few years on the Columbus Blue Jackets, and just rock solid. Rock solid he was, most of it. Now, I would just wish from his standpoint he had more magical Columbus moments to call. Didn't have too many over the stretch of his career, but he will be honored tonight before the game, so they'll do that ceremony at Nationwide Arena for Jeff Rimmer as he retires, hangs up the microphone after this season, after being the day one, the only television voice of the Jackets for the last 20-plus years. As far as the game goes, Columbus now has shown me enough against Pittsburgh the last month, where they've lost 2 in a row in the last calendar month to Pittsburgh, where, I don't trust them. I just don't. But I'm not laying minus 170 with Pittsburgh either here in this spot. I got burned by the over trifecta the last game. Do I want to come back to it here in this game? I don't know. In a big card like this, I'm thinking no. But if I were to lean any which direction here in this game,
Ian just dropped out. Okay. All right. Well, it's funny because I was actually about to correct something that Ian said in reference with Rimmer. Rimmer's actually been the announcer for the Columbus Blue Jackets since 2005. Dan P. Kelly, the son of Dan Kelly, was the first announcer for Columbus back when they started in 2000. This game's interesting. Like I said, when you're looking at these late season ceremony games, you tend to have a bad team that will be jazzed up and geared up, and obviously the crowd will be excited, and you have kind of a different kind of atmosphere. Also, we talk about it at the beginning of the year with ceremonies for opening night, how teams may be a little sluggish after having a delay of 10, 15, 20 minutes going into the game. So I think this is actually a decent spot to back Columbus here, plus 150 in this spot. I think this is actually one of those moments where, okay, we can step up against our rival, Pittsburgh, who has dominated us for years, but now they're in the tank and they're kind of down in the dumps and not really finding themselves. So I'm taking a shot here plus 150 with the Jackets.
Well, I mean, I would certainly lean that way too. Gosh, it's hard to trust the Jackets. Just find a way to shit themselves. I mean, it's just it's really, really remarkable. And plus, you factor in Columbus too. There's 5-game road trip. It's the Malinsky special in play. But they got the ceremony. Pittsburgh, they beat this team at home. It might just be time for Columbus to return the favor. Is Pittsburgh really good enough to beat a team two times in a row right now, especially now on the road this time? That ends up being the big question. I know Columbus has lost 6 in a row. You're right. I mean, I would lean Columbus here. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger, but I lean that way. As far as the props, though, in this game, I'll say this here for the Penguins is that, and this shows you just what kind of a competitor he is. Team's going nowhere, basically eliminated from the playoffs weeks ago. Sidney Crosby's notched 3 consecutive multi-point games. He's got 9 points in the last 3 games for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So not just assist prop, Brian, which I do like, but over 1.5 points for Sidney Crosby. You might as well bet it, and it's plus money. I mean, 3 straight multi-point games. He's the only guy doing something consistently right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So Crosby over 1.5 points. Absolutely, it makes sense to me. I think that's a really good prop bet, actually. For Columbus, it looks like we're going to have to see what the lineup is. They've had some injuries, obviously, going into this game. But I think when you look at how it sets up for them tonight in this game against Pittsburgh, Alexander Nylander's day-to-day, they really are banged up. They've already have Johnson, Fantilli, Corrali, Danforth, and Laine on IR. Shenikov's day-to-day may not play. Alex Nylander, who's been a nice find for the Columbus Blue Jackets since that trade with Pittsburgh, he's day-to-day. So who are you going to count on for offense here? Because this lineup gets patchwork. You got Michael Petilla. You've got James Malatesta down on the 4th line, who just got called up recently. He was actually in a fight the other night for Columbus. But really, it gets patchwork. After Gaudreau, Jenner, Tessier, Sillinger, and Voronkov is probably the one I would go with. Voronkov's got to step up. He's on the 2nd line. He's had glimpses of offense earlier in the season for the Blue Jackets. So I definitely think if you're going to take a shot with a goal prop for Columbus, maybe Voronkov's the one you look to here in this game. And as far as the goaltending scenario here in this game with the Penguins and Blue Jackets, second of a home and home, it looks like right now we're looking at Nedeljkovic and Merzlikins. Those are both confirmed. Nedeljkovic and Merzlikins in net here in this game for their respective teams. All right, so that's Penguins and Blue Jackets. We roll along, and a great turnout in the chat. We appreciate it very much, everyone joining us here on the show. Next up, Toronto and Buffalo. This has always been a tough game for the Leafs, regardless of who is in the lineup for the Buffalo Sabres or the Toronto Maple Leafs, for that matter. This has always been a game where it's been not always easy for the Leafs to get their best game put on the board against this very, very tough Buffalo team, because Buffalo, basically treats Toronto like their Stanley Cup every year. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case again here. We've got Toronto minus 145 road favorites. The total in this game, 6.5 shaded. Actually, it's pretty much even money here, 6.5 in this one. I definitely lean to an over trifecta here. Toronto-Buffalo typically means goals, goals, goals. We have seen a lot, and I mean a lot of overs head-to-head with the Leafs and the Sabres. It wouldn't surprise me to see more of that here in this game. And LJ's throwing out the road over stats for Toronto, 12-4 to the over, the 5.5 over, that is, the last 16 on the road. But I definitely think this is a spot for maybe some goals tonight as well. Looks like the goalie matchup in this game, Samsonov confirmed for Toronto. We should see Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, obviously, for Buffalo, because we saw Devin Levi last night in the game against New Jersey. So, but I like goals here. I mean, Toronto, look at Toronto-Buffalo historically. It's just been goal fests pretty much throughout. And I think especially in Buffalo, there's been a lot of high-scoring games. So that's the only thing for me. Over trifecta. I don't want Buffalo after last night. How many times do we see Buffalo, good win last night, 4-goal night for Tage, big comeback against New Jersey. Toronto's the better team right now. Not going to lay minus 145, but I would only look Leafs in this spot. What do you think here, Alex? Toronto, Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm looking at the over trifecta, but I want to grab stuff in game. First period over. and full game over. Wait to grab them in a game. I don't think we're going to get goals super duper fast. A smaller sprinkle on both teams to score here. I did a player prop that I do like. I'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, definitely not looking at anything toward the sides. Buffalo, like I said, they get up for Toronto, but after that game last night, it's just, it's a little dicey. And then, like I said, it's a team that's not really been a model of consistency throughout the season.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. There's so many teams like that, like Buffalo, New Jersey, Islanders, all these teams that are just outside the playoffs in the East that are likely going to miss. Yeah, I mean, there's just zero consistency. They could beat a Florida and they could lose at home to like a Arizona or something, or it's just ridiculous.
And isn't it interesting how at least 3 of those teams, they have issues with goaltending that could have been solved at the beginning of the year?
Yeah. Exactly. And you've been saying that about Buffalo too, that they probably should have solidified their goaltending. You're rushing Levi along too quickly. I still think he's going to be pretty good long term.
Yeah,
and he was good after. Look, credit to him. He was very good after the early 2 New Jersey goals last night as well. They got something in him, but they just expected him to be a number 1 guy right away, straight out of college, and it doesn't work that way. There has to be some seasoning. There has to be some development in your goaltender. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing right now out of Devin Levi here for the Buffalo Sabres at this point in time. Just needs some more development. That's all. As far as props go, how do we not bet Tyler Bertuzzi right now? I mean, he's just cannot be stopped. Max Domi assist just is a prop that keeps on cashing as well for the Leafs. John Tavares, I could see, because he got called out a couple games ago. He was much better in the last game for the Leafs. And how about this crazy theory? And hey, it worked with Gus Forsling for Alex in a bargain bin way against the I forgot who they played that night, but he had Gustav Forsling as a bargain bin special for Florida
against Philadelphia,
against Philly, and it was after he signed a contract extension.
Yeah,
and it's just he got the money, maybe take a shot, see if he scores. This guy doesn't score many goals, hardly any, but Simone Benoit for Toronto. This is definitely a dart shot. Simone Benoit for the Leafs. He got his contract extension a couple of days ago. He's going to be back in the fold. He'll probably play with a little extra pep in his step. He knows this is his team now for the next 2-3 years. Why not? Maybe step into a clapper from the blue line and beat Luukkonen maybe. Take a shot. Why not? It's like crazy price. I got to just double check what the price is, but I think last I checked, it's like 1,800 or 18 to 1. For him to score
That's
a goal.
Worth a stab in the dark for sure at 18 to 1.
18 to 1. Like, I mean, look, his game is defense and physicality. He'll drop the gloves every now and then too. It's not at all offense, but plus 1,900 at Patano, 1,700 at FanDuel. We're just saying a couple bucks. That's all for Simone Benoit here tonight for the Leafs after getting the contract renewal, and deservedly so. He's been better than TJ Brody, quite honestly, on that blue line, who's been a mistake-prone blue defenseman this year for the Leafs. He's honestly been better than a couple of players on that Leafs blue line. That's how good he's been. So he's been rewarded, and rightfully so, for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Gives them some of that. I'll say this about Toronto come playoff time. Alex, you can say what you want about the playoff flops and failures. One round they've won in 20 years. They're not going to be bullied this year. No. They've got Edmondson. They've got Benoit. They've got Jake McCabe all on the blue line. Domi's got a little petulance to him. Bertuzzi doesn't take shit from anybody. No one's going to go after Matthews and Marner and Nylander as much physically with some of these guys around now. Reeves, of course, if he gets in the playoffs. Yep.
But that's true. But here's the thing. Will they be focused on that to the point, especially depending on who they draw? Say they draw Boston. Will they be so focused on that early that they start taking dumb penalties?
Right.
That they try to press the tempo.
That's how you can lose a series.
That's how you can lose. Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. They don't need to do that. You have protection if it gets physical. They have to remember that. Don't try to, and we see this in the playoffs all the time. And some teams are able to do it, and they're usually able to advance when they do this. But they want to press it and kind of lead with the physicality. They don't need to do that. They just know that, they can protect their stars. They have to play their game. But if it turns physical, which it usually does in a playoff series, they have the horses to do so.
Yeah, that's right. And that's because I think it's a nice battle. They had zero physicality and zero sandpaper in previous editions of the Leafs in the Stanley Cup playoffs. This year, they've got plenty of it, but you also hope they rein it in. They control it. They harness it. Use it for in between the whistles during the play physicality. Don't take undisciplined penalties because, again, you give team too many power plays in the playoffs, and special teams can be so crucial come playoff time could make all the difference. All right, next up, we've got the Chicago Blackhawks taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. Philly minus 300, home favorites here in this matchup. The total currently 6, shaded to the over in this one. I'm definitely keeping an eye on this goaltending situation here. Yes, it is Arvid Soderblom. Give me Flyers team total over. Simple as that. They're off a debacle against Montreal. That can't happen. You cannot have that kind of a performance against Montreal. I know Montreal's playing feisty lately, and they've won 3 in a row now. That's a bad look. That's a bad job by Torts and the Flyers the other night, losing to Montreal. You need a response here. You've got a goalie that's an absolute sieve in the net right now. For the Chicago Blackhawks. It's time to respond. Obviously, I want 0 piece of minus 300, and there's very little value with anything as far as a puck line or regulation either for Philadelphia. So the best approach is just take the team total. It's over 3.5, minus 130. I think they get 4 goals in this game. What do you think here, Alex? Blackhawks, Flyers?
Yeah, first period over 1.5, minus 120, along with that Flyers team total over 3.5, minus 130. The Hawks, if you throw out the 2010 Stanley Cup Final, the Hawks have only had 1 victory since 1996 in Philadelphia. This is already the worst Hawks road team we've ever seen in history, and now they're going into a city where they just haven't been able to find it other than when it counts. So that being said, and of course it's a Soderblom start. Yeah, team total for Philly over and first period over.
Yeah, Ersson for Philly, of course, in net. By the way, Sandstrom, that experiment's done. He's been sent back down, and the big news out of Philly, this Ivan Fedotov has been brought over from Russia, and he's been brought in with the team, and he's now the official backup to Samuel Ersson, and we might be seeing him make his NHL debut there. This guy is like, you think Dennis Hildeby in Toronto, that prospect is a huge goalie. This guy is a fucking monster in net. His height is unbelievable. Yeah. Like he's certainly got the coverage of the net to be a pretty good goalie. You just hope he's not someone that can't move fluidly in between the pieces. One thing to be big, and that's great to have the height, to have the big stature and cover a lot of the net, but you got to be somewhat athletic and movement in between the pipes. Our guy Carter Hutton was talking about that when he was on the show with us last month as well. You got to have that movement in the crease. You can't just be a stiff there and just rely on positioning and being on the angle and just covering the net. So that's something to monitor. But yeah, it looks like they're going to be looking to give Fedotov a shot here as the backup moving forward.
And I was kind of hoping he would get this game because I would definitely have been on the over trifecta. We have our little group chat, and we were kind of talking about him yesterday, and I kind of looked up his highlights and looked up his stats. His numbers aren't really that impressive in the KHL and the VHL, which is the AHL.
He's also just a 7th round pick. Let's keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, and right. And we found diamonds in the rough before at 7th round goaltenders like Pecorine, but the diamonds in the rough for a reason. We use that expression. I don't know if his movement and mobility is going to be keeping up with his size right away. He's definitely going to have some time to adjust to the North American game. So with that being said, Flyers moving forward, if they have to turn to him in an emergency, in a pinch, Ersson goes down for some reason, certainly once they get in the playoffs, if he has to play a playoff game, he's probably a guy who just will be looking to fade heavily. But we got to see what he can do. And like I said, they're definitely going to throw him a game or two here. So I'm stunned that they didn't do it against the Hawks here tonight. I'm surprised that this is an Ersson start.
And remember, they're not even climbing up the Ivan Fedotov tree if Carter Hart's not involved in the scenario he's in. This not even up for discussion. This is not even a consideration at one point earlier this year before the Carter Hart involvement with the Team Canada nonsense ended up coming to fruition. So that's what's basically led to this domino effect, if you will. It's led to Ersson having to start a bunch and then scrambling to find a backup for him now for this Flyers team. And Sandstrom, it's not been good. Peterson was a disaster. They put him on waivers. And now, of course, it looks like they're going to turn to Ivan Fedotov here for the Flyers, at least in the foreseeable future, at least in the short term, as the backup to Samuel Ersson, who's the de facto #1 goalie now for the Philadelphia Flyers. All right, next up, we've got San Jose and St. Louis. Blues minus 340, home favorites. The total in this one sitting at 6, shaded to the over in this game. You look at this St. Louis team, and clearly this is a game you got to have. You cannot lose at home to San Jose under any circumstances, under any circumstances can you allow that to happen if you want to make this playoff push and try to track down one of the 2 wild card spots in the West. And it's already going to be difficult to do because I don't think they can catch Nashville, and Vegas keeps winning. So this is not going to be easy for St. Louis to do that. But you got to win this game. They got the job done against Calgary 5-3. It wasn't easy, but they beat a team they should have beat at home, and they've got to follow suit here tonight against a San Jose team that's now lost 9 straight games, 3-1 loss to Minnesota on Thursday night. And now they'll try to knock off this Blues team. Believe it or not, San Jose won in November. There's only been one meeting this year between these 2 teams, and San Jose, believe it or not, won it 5-1, November the 16th in San Jose. So we'll see how this one goes here, but there's just no value on St. Louis. I would only look maybe at a team total here for St. Louis, which is actually I will. I'll take over 3.5 minus 140. It's playable. It's good enough price. Over 3.5 here. Looks like it's going to be as far as goaltending. Blackwood hasn't been great, and that's unfortunate for him and for the Sharks because before his injury, he was starting to play pretty well. I think the Minnesota game was a little bit better from him, but before that, he gave up the 4 to Tampa, 6 to Dallas. So he's still trying to find his footing coming off the long absence and the injury, and still has a 3.52 goals against average on the season. Joel Hofer going to get the nod for St. Louis in this game. What's funny about Hofer? He was not playing great earlier in the season, but start to look at the last 3 starts he's had, Alex. He's won all 3, and he's given up just 5 goals in the last 3 starts combined. So this has been a uptick in performance here from Joel Hofer the last 3 games. So I don't know. I'm going to probably do not a first period over or both teams to score here. I'm just going to go with a Blues team total over and a smaller bet on the full game over. That's it for me in this game. What do you think here, Alex? San Jose, St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm on the full game over. 6 minus I actually got $1.05, but I'm seeing minus $1.10. I will sprinkle a little bit smaller on that over 1.5. I'm seeing 130, so I'll probably go half unit now and maybe try to grab some plus money in game as well because I'm seeing that trend for the last 5 meetings going over in the first period. But I just think we get goals here. Mostly going to be St. Louis doing the heavy lifting, but I trust them to at least get 4. But I don't want to lay that kind of a price here. I think we get some action from San Jose going as well. Hofer, like you said, good, decent numbers the last 3 games, 5 goals allowed, but he's still a bit erratic in my book, and I think we can give up at least 1 or 2 here. So over from the full game at 6, and a little bit small with the first period over, adding a little bit more in game in that spot.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, Brian. Oh, wow, look at that. Brian, who's in our chat most days here. Jake Neighbors' first goal for him, 13-1.
Not bad.
At BetMGM. Well, I do like, won't you be my neighbor? I like Jake Neighbors just to get a goal. No question about that here in this game. We know how good he's been for the Blues all season, especially of late. That is plus 225. Look, the prices are dropping on Jake now. I've never seen it that low, plus 225 on him. So finally, they're starting to adjust the pricing for Jake Neighbors of late for the Blues, and rightfully so. But I like the value of that first goal. That's not bad there for Jake Neighbors. I'd maybe take a shot too. Brandon Saad's heating up for St. Louis. It's weird. We think about Brandon Saad as someone who's better days for the most part behind him, but he's still only 31. It's not like he's real old. He's now scored in 4 straight games for the St. Louis Blues. Scored against Ottawa, Minnesota, Vegas, and Calgary. A goal in each game. So you ride that right now. And I finally jumped on the Saad Express in that last game against Calgary, betting his goal prop, plus 275 for Brandon Saad on a 4-game goal streak for the St. Louis Blues right now. Worth a look as far as I'm concerned in this game. No question about that. Maybe Zach Bolduc as well for St. Louis. This is a guy that's in his first year. He scored against Calgary. He's, I believe, still getting opportunity on the top 6 forward group for the St. Louis Blues as well. So Saad, Bolduc, Neighbors, 3 goal props that I do like there for the Blues tonight in that game. All right, next up, Dallas Stars as they continue their road trip, which has been a great road trip for them. They take on the Seattle Kraken. Dallas minus 170, road favorites. The total sitting at 6, shaded to the under in this game. Could only look at Dallas. They're playing great. They're rolling right now. Seattle did beat Anaheim back-to-back games, but who the hell cares? I mean, Anaheim's just even worse right now than Seattle. And that's I got off the Fade Seattle Express the last 2 games because they were playing Anaheim. I didn't trust Anaheim all that much. Now, this game, you're playing a good team again. And I don't trust you to win. Dallas in regulation I'm going to sprinkle on that. Dallas in regulation. The one concern is they're coming the huge game against Vancouver, two of the top teams in the West, big win. Do you look past Seattle? If they don't, they're going to beat Seattle because they're just a much better team right now. Seattle finally won 2 in a row, but against one, maybe you can make a case Anaheim's playing like one of the worst teams in the NHL right now. I like Dallas here in regulation a little bit. I'm a little concerned after such a huge win against Vancouver that they maybe don't have their absolute best tonight, but I don't know if Seattle's capable of beating a really good team right now based on what they've done lately. So Ottinger and Decord, by the way, are projected as the starting goalies tonight, but neither is confirmed. Dunn is close to a return, but we still don't know if that's going to be tonight for them. So we'll see how that goes. There's actually props that I like more than anything in this game. I'll sprinkle on Dallas in regulation, but what I like here more than anything in this game is Jamie fucking Benn. This guy right now, we cashed a bargain bin special with Jamie Benn against Vancouver. I was actually very surprised he was plus 360 to score a goal in that game against the Vancouver Canucks, given what he's done right now. He has definitely... I don't know what it is, but for some reason, for Jamie Benn to play well consistently, it's been this way his whole career. He needs to be motivated. He needs to be in a situation where he's happy, where he's feeling good about coming to the rink every day. Right now, he looks like he's got that going right now. He sees that the Stars are playing, they're on a good run right now. They're playing good hockey. They've won a bunch in a row. And he's playing with these young kids in Wyatt Johnston and Logan Stankoven on that third line that have given him making him young again, I think, and giving him new life and adrenaline and energy. And he is playing like it. And it just really bothers me that we have not seen this version of Jamie Benn often enough at times. He can dominate a game. He absolutely can, and we just don't see it often enough. But we're seeing it now. This is the best stretch of games. These last 6 games out of Jamie Benn, you could even go back further, the last 8 games, because he's on an 8-game point streak for them right now. This is some of the best hockey he's played in years for the Dallas Stars right now. 8-game point streak, 6-game goal streak, and during that span, he's got 7 goals in those 6 games for the Dallas Stars. So whatever you can find on Jamie Benn tonight, you bet it. Goal prop, assist prop, point prop. Take a shot with over 1.5 points. He has had a couple multi-point games of late for the Stars. In fact, 3 of the last 4 games have been multi-point games for Jamie Benn. And you can find upwards of plus 375 for him to get 2 points in this game tonight. So actually, I think it's a bet 365 that is. So we talked about it. Jamie Benn's feeling it right now. The goal prop is finally below the threshold of bargain bin. So he won't be using Jamie Benn as the bargain bin special tonight because the best price you can get for him to score a goal is plus 280. But still a good price. He's been on fire. And I'm just checking that, bet 365. Jamie Benn over 1.5 points is plus 375. Wow. So very good price with that. And again, multi-point games in 3 of the last 4. He is playing like a captain right now for the Dallas Stars. What do you think here in this one, Alex? Stars, Kraken.
So if you're feeling uncomfortable about taking, Dallas in regulation, or certainly don't want to lay $1.70, you can just tie Jamie Benn point with a win. I'm seeing plus 134 for that at Bet Online. So that's another.
That's just 1 point.
That's just 1
point.
Keep
that in mind. And he's on an 8-game point streak.
Yeah. So 1 point with Dallas win, that puts you in plus money range. And you don't have to worry about getting it in 60 minutes. I like the first period over here. Don't call it a comeback, but Dallas 7-4 the last 11 to the first period over. Of course, we had that hot run early in the year. Maybe they're starting to get back into that. Seattle, just a team that's completely dead in the water right now. I could definitely see them giving up some goals early. Not so crazy about the full game over 6. If Dallas can get things rolling defensively, which that's their biggest thing, is being able to keep shit out of their own net, then this could be one of those games that's 4-0, 4-1, 5-1. And me saying that, I also like the team total over 3.5 plus $1.10 with Dallas. So I took a smaller shot with that, but like in the first period over. And I probably will have in pocket that Jamie Benn point tied in with Dallas money line to kind of knock that price down to the plus range.
Bailey, good question. Why Seattle hasn't called up Shane Wright? I think we're cutting to the time of year they should give him a look. His numbers are good down there. They're not phenomenal. They're not like mind-blowing, eye-popping, jump off the page. He's got 43 points in 55 games with the Coachella Valley Firebirds in the American Hockey League right now for them, Shane Wright. So, but, Seattle's not going anywhere. Their season's done. They're obviously way out of the playoff race. Give them a look.
Coachella has a 10-point lead in the Pacific and the AHL. And after what happened last year, I think they're really kind of gunning up and trying to gear up for a Calder Cup run.
Yes.
So, we might see some other moves actually of guys going down to Coachella Valley before we see some guys come up.
Yeah, that's true. Although I'd like to see him get a couple games at least with the Kraken, especially because they got that cushion in the AHL standings right now, Coachella Valley. But I'm not convinced we're going to see it necessarily. But plus his numbers, like you'd like him to be, especially considering the pedigree he had when he was drafted, you'd like to see him maybe a little closer to a point per game than he is. Like he's got 43 and 50. That's still pretty solid, but it's not like it's phenomenal or anything. No. 43 and 55.
I like what Seattle's doing with him. I think that there are some prospects that don't need to be in the NHL right away. So that's with Alexis Lafreniere. We've seen this with several guys now in the last decade. Yeah, there's no problem having a first-round pick, cut his teeth in the minors. It happened all these years prior. I don't know why we got into this rush where all of a sudden we have to throw every 18-year-old right into the league as soon as we draft him. This isn't the NBA. So I think Shane Wright will grow and progress in his career and have a longer career because of this time he's putting in with Coachella Valley.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Dylan Larkin's having a tough day. It looks like injured. It looks like potentially will he come back and is going to end up being the question.
Wait, he got hurt, went out, and now he left the game again?
It looks like he left again. Okay. Yes, right. For the Detroit Red Wings, who continue to nurse a 1-0 lead right here over the Florida Panthers. So we'll see if that can continue moving forward. But definitely, I think when you look at it right now, unfortunate. Because Larkin's the heart and soul. We know what Detroit was like the last time they had Dylan Larkin out. It didn't go well at all. So that's how important he is to the Detroit Red Wings. All right, final game of this massive Saturday slate. We wrap up with the Los Angeles Kings taking on the Calgary Flames. We've got LA right now minus 160. Road favorites. The total in this one, 5.5 across the board. Books starting to adjust to this Calgary team being pretty bad right now. And obviously a team that's kind of deconstructed their roster, getting rid of Tanev, getting rid of Hanifin before the deadline. We've talked about how they're a much worse blue line without those two guys, and they're giving up goals in bunches right now going into this game against LA. Now they got Hanley and Anderson and Uyghur, and now you got Miramonov and Pahal and a lot of youngsters. Nikita Okotyuk, that's how you say it. He might be in the blue line tonight due to injury as well for Calgary. So, just a lot of issues right now. Markstrom in net, but it hasn't mattered. He's had a weaker blue line in front of him in recent games, and obviously his numbers have not been as good, and he's struggled a lot more because of the defensive shortcomings right now of the Calgary Flames, who have given up. You go back to the Florida game 10 games ago, right after the deadline, 5-7-6. Okay, they had a couple of games they won where they gave up 1 and 2 to Montreal. Then they gave up 5 to Washington, 4 to Vancouver, 4 to Buffalo, 3 to a pretty bad Chicago offense, and then 5 last game against St. Louis. So they have really, really had a tough time defensively, as I pretty much projected they would after they traded Tanev and Hanifin for the Calgary Flames. We don't have a goalie confirmed for LA, but Cam Talbot is projected right here for the LA Kings, coming off a 4-1 loss to the Edmonton Oilers. They just, I don't know, some reason they still can't beat that team. A lot of they did beat them once in the regular season, but we know they lost 2 years in a row in the playoffs, and it's just a thorn in their side, the Edmonton Oilers, for this LA team. So they'll be looking to bounce back here against the Calgary Flames. Worth noting, Calgary, they've done, 4 home games, then on the road to Vancouver, back home for 1 game, 2 road games, back home again. So there's been a lot of travel and venue change between games recently for the Calgary Flames. Now, I don't want to make it sound like, and I'm going to stress that this is not me going all in and unloading on LA here, but we are peppering a bunch of different bets involving LA here. I like first period puck line on LA, first and foremost. Bouncing back after the tough Edmonton game. I like LA in regulation. I like LA team total over in this game as well. Those are the three primary looks in this game. I might give a smaller nod to the over 5.5, just because 5.5 seems dirt cheap for a total in a Calgary game right now, given the way they're giving up goals. But yeah, those four looks: LA first period puck line, LA in regulation, LA team total over 3.5, which is plus 130. It's a hell of a great price for that over 3.5. And also a little full game over 5.5 as well. Alex, what do you think here? Kings, Flames.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you, peppering little, smaller spots with kind of backing Kings and mostly over. I like 5.5, but I also like that first period over 1.5 at minus $1.15 at Caesars. That's a cheap enough price. But I'm also telling you on that first period puck line with LA. I think they can get off to a fast start early, and they know. He said LA and Vegas battling neck and neck. Those are two teams that they should be getting early jumps in games. They know that they need the points desperately, and this is a Calgary team that we just can't kind of trust down the stretch. So looking for goals, and I don't know, I'm torn now on my bargain bin because there's a spot here that I'm kind of liking with this game. So I might be talking about it later. If not, it will just be on the Patreon page.
Yeah, I don't want to say they've given up. They have the effort. The effort's not been piss poor for Calgary. It's not. Actually, I think the effort's been decent. Like they're trying out there. It's not a lack of try. They're not very good defensively anymore. I mean, it's really that simple. I mean, you take out a Chris Tanev, you take out a Noah Hannafin. It's two tremendous blue liners, and especially in terms of prevention, goal prevention, shot suppression, all that stuff. And they're just much worse in terms of keeping the puck out of the net now. Without those two guys. So like I said, for the Kings, it's a bounce back spot after the tough game against Edmonton. Remember, LA was good enough to win in Vancouver early in the week. So this is a spot where they should be able to get the job done. The struggling, defensively challenged Calgary Flames. Fiala and Kopitar will go back to the well with props for those two tonight for the LA Kings. They've been producing pretty nicely. Maybe Byfield as well, because Byfield's really been noticeable lately for the LA Kings as well going into this game. As far as Calgary goes, he's a streaky player, and he carried them to at least have a chance against St. Louis the other night, even though they still ultimately lost. And that's Andrei Kuzmenko, who's now up to the second line for Calgary. So streaky player, starting to get a little something going offensively for Calgary the last few games. So probably Andrei Kuzmenko would be my favorite goal prop on the Flames side of the equation tonight. All right, great stuff. That is the Saturday card. Huge slate. We appreciate all of you joining us for these Saturday shows. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. And make sure you sign up and subscribe on the Ice Guys Patreon page, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Our daily sides, totals, and player props each and every day get posted on the Patreon page as well. Bonus videos. We'll do the Q&A definitely. We haven't forgotten about that. We will definitely be recording that. I think we might, if there's that little break in the schedule, when we'll record that, I was starting to think there's that day off between the end of the regular season and the playoffs, that Friday. There's definitely no hockey that day. That might be the day to do the Q&A, Friday, April the 19th, right before the Stanley Cup playoffs begin. So that could be an option. We also have to do a playoff preview show, though, too.
Right, yeah.
So we'll keep that in mind. But we will get to the Q&A. There's no doubt.
It'll come.
It'll come.
We'll get there.
Hold tight. It'll happen.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Hell, even if we have to wait till the off season, we will. But we will definitely get to it. There's no question for our Patreon members. And actually, you know what? It's not the worst thing in the world to hold it off to the off season. Give us more off season content, along with the Players Suite. We're bringing the Players Suite interview series back in the off season. And one of the guests we've got on the radar potentially is Adam Samuelsson for the Players Suite series, the son of Ulf Samuelsson. You think he's playing over in Sweden right now. Nice. And just to be able to talk to him about his dad, because his dad was universally hated in the NHL for, obviously a good guy off the ice, but man, a major prick. I would even say D-bag at times on the ice with some of the shit he tried to pull. One of the dirtiest players in the NHL back in that era, honestly. Ulf Samuelsson. But that's definitely, we got the Players Suite coming back in the off season. We're looking forward to that. Lots coming up. And again, of course, many Patreon exclusive live betcasts coming up in April and beyond. Next week, early in the week, probably by Monday, Tuesday, Alex and I will start to announce the dates of our April betcasts. So we're definitely looking forward to those. Patreon, and many of them will be Patreon exclusive as well. So make sure you sign up and subscribe. Just $10 per month. Your subscription goes a long way to keeping the show rolling long term. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month.
Yeah, and just wanted to kind of just add on to that. Like I said, yeah, make sure to stick around with Patreon, not just in April, but through May and June, because there's something really cool we're going to be doing at the end of the season as well. And we're going to need everybody that's subscribed to the Patreon and for the YouTube, for that example, that's going to be part of this whole thing that we're going to be doing, kind of an end credits year-end thing that we're working on. So definitely want to sign up, be part of that, have your name included in that, but also the wonderful content that we'll be providing during the off season to kind of keep you guys, satisfied with some hockey content when the games are wrapping up in June and July.
Yeah, that's it. The goal is we're gonna not just abandon ship. Obviously, the Daily Show takes a hiatus for a few months during the off season, but we will have Patreon content, no question about it, still throughout the off season on the Patreon page at patreon.com/Ice Guys. And make sure you check out the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and your merch, iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yes, everything's in stock right now, and 20% off will be coming on Tuesday. So shop now, see what you like, wait for it, and then you'll be able to get that 20% off coupon that starts at midnight on Tuesday.
All right, there we go. Make sure you check that out. All right, it is time for Best Bets and Bargain Bin Special of the Night, coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great daily sponsors here of the Ice Guys Show, our good friends at Boston Hemp Inc. All right, Boston Hemp Inc. Make sure you check them out. Get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code ICEGUYS at bostonhempinc.com. It looks like we have a goalie confirmation as well for LA. David Riddick. I totally forgot about this. Former Calgary Flame. No wonder they're interested in giving him the start tonight against the Calgary Flames. So David Riddick actually has been more good than bad, believe it or not, with the LA Kings since he's been there. So we'll see how that goes for him tonight. And he'll probably want a piece of beating Calgary tonight. There's no question, one of his former teams. So it looks like Riddick. We'll see if he's Big Save Dave or Big Siv Dave tonight for the LA Kings in that game. All right, it is time for Bargain Bin Special of the night. Oh my gosh, tons to choose from. Alex, what do you like for your Bargain Bin Special tonight?
Well, yeah, I hope he can be Big Save Dave at least early in the contest, because what I like is a first goal prop of the LA Kings. I'm going with Anze Kopitar. He has been just red hot right now, and I think he's a guy who can get things rocking and rolling for this Kings club. So at plus 1,500 at FanDuel, we're going Anze Kopitar to get the first goal of the game in LA against Calgary tonight.
There you go. I like it. Anze Kopitar, first goal for the LA Kings. Bargain Bin Special for Alex B. Smith. My Bargain Bin Special, I'm going with the same player I cashed a Bargain Bin Special winner with a couple nights ago for the Dallas Stars, the red-hot captain of the Dallas Stars, Jamie Benn. Now, the goal prop is not bargain bin price worthy, but the point prop is, the over 1.5 point prop is. That's what I'm going to roll with here. Look, he's got a point in 8 straight games, but he has multi-point games in 3 of the last 4 games for the Dallas Stars. Over 1.5 points. And I don't do point props very often for Bargain Bin Special, but we're doing it tonight. Jamie Benn, Dallas Stars, over 1.5 points plus 375. That is going to be my Bargain Bin Special of the night for this Saturday card. All right, best bets to wrap up this mammoth edition of the show. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Head down to sunny Tampa Bay. Got the Isles and the Bolts. We're going first period over 1.5 minus 125. Tampa Bay on a 13-3 run. We've seen the Isles cash 3 of their last 5, and 4 of the last 6 meetings between these two clubs have gone over in the first 20 minutes. So that is the New York Islanders and the Tampa Bay Lightning. First period over 1.5, minus $1.25. My Saturday best bet.
All right, there you go. For best bet for Alex B. Smith. My best bet, Philadelphia Flyers team total. Over 3.5, minus 130. They need to respond after that Montreal game, and they've got a team and a goalie in Arvid Soderblom that they've got the chance to respond against. I think they get to 4 goals. Philly team total over 3.5. My best bet for this Saturday NHL card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. And if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we are back tomorrow on Sunday for another edition of the Ice Guys.